Hello everyone, I'm Brian and welcome back. Let's go ahead and get started.
This is the first noble truth, dukkha. But Buddha did not stop there. Buddha, if he had stopped there, it would be pessimistic. There is a philosopher, Zimmer. He wrote a book on the philosophies of India. He says, apparently the philosophies of India seem to be pessimistic, but actually they are optimistic. They say there is suffering, and if you stop there, it's pessimistic. But they all say that there is a solution to suffering. There is a freedom from suffering. The Buddha also does that. A great Indian philosopher, about 500 years ago, Madhavacharya, who wrote a book, Sarva Darshana Sangraha, collection of all the philosophies. So he describes the Buddhistic approach as chikitsakanamiva, like doctors. So it's particularly apt in today's environment today, where we are facing great medical crisis. Just like doctors, they identify the disease, the symptoms. What is the suffering? Step one, dukkha. Second, they identify, does it have a cause? What is it just there, or is there a cause behind it? Buddha says there is a cause, desire. And if the cause is there, if you remove the cause, then the disease will go away. If you can kill the virus or develop immunity for the virus, then the suffering caused by the virus will go away. So that is a cure. Is there a cure? So yes, there is a cure. Buddha says there is a cure to suffering. Not only virus suffering, but all kinds of suffering. And he calls it nirvana. Third noble truth. And is there a treatment? A method? Right now for the virus, we don't have a method. We don't have a treatment. But the Buddha has a treatment for all kinds of suffering. Calls it marga, the way. Which is the fourth noble truth. So chikitsakanamiva, just like a doctor. The philosopher saint approaches the problem of life just like a doctor. Disease, cause, remedy, treatment. So second noble truth is the cause. The cause, according to the Buddha, is desire. The word they use is trishna or tanha. The Pali is tissa, the Sanskrit is trishna. It means thirst. This thirst for pleasures of the world, and more deeply for existing in this limited form. I want to exist like this. So at this level, causality is discussed. The Buddhists are big on causality. Before we go into the details which might seem complicated, the basic idea is very simple. The basic idea of causality is this arising, that arises. This not arising, that does not arise. So if there is a cause, there will be an effect. If you remove the cause, effect also will be removed. If there is an effect, suffering, there must be a cause. And the cause, Buddha says, is desire. And we'll see how that is a cause. If you remove that, then the suffering will be removed. How does this work? One thing is that there's a great similarity between the analysis of the Buddhists and Shankaracharya. As we saw, desire itself, which is born of ignorance. So avidya leads to kama. Avidya is ignorance, and kama is desire. And because we have desire, we act on the basis of that desire to fulfill that desire, and that is called karma. So all action based on desire, which is based on ignorance, that action gives rise to results, and these results lead to future lives, and the cycle of birth and death continues. To repeat, ignorance leads to desire, desire leads to action, and action perpetuates samsara. The results of action you have to get, so life after life keeps coming. Avidya kama karma, ignorance, desire, and action. This is a phrase that Shankaracharya uses a number of times and very nicely encapsulates the Buddhist thinking about it. Only there are differences. There is a major difference. According to Shankaracharya, according to Advaita Vedanta, avidya, ignorance, you should ask, ignorance about what? In Vedanta, it's very clear. Ignorance about our real nature, that we are ever fulfilled in infinite existence consciousness. And once you know that, there will be no more desire because you are ever fulfilled. What could you desire? And so there will be no more action based on desire. And so the problem of samsara will be solved. In Buddhism, ignorance is about, avidya is about the emptiness, nature of the self, that there is no permanent entity called the self, either apart from the body or mind or in the body and mind. An emptiness of the world. Every entity in the world is said to be empty. There is no independently existing entity in the world. They are all interdependent realities. So this thing we don't realize, and therefore there is desire, and therefore there is karma based on desire.
I just want to point out real quick. So right there, what he explained, independence is nothingness, which is again that last video, which he helped me. Just those few words helped me understand it quite a lot. So everything's interdependent on each other, and if it's independent, then it is nothingness. I mean, the dude in that video said that, but somehow it just didn't click for some odd reason.
So the Buddhists have an elaborate scheme of causality, where how desire leads to life after life and suffering. They call it pratitya samutpada. This is taught by Buddha himself. The central idea of Buddhism, I will quickly summarize the thing. It's called the 12-linked chain. The 12 links, a chain, and this chain binds us in samsara. It's very interesting actually. The 12 links, I'll go through it, but remember, the core idea is this arising, that arises, this not arising, that does not arise. These 12 links will show us what is samsara, how we are bound, and how to be free. So what are these 12 links? It goes like this very quickly. In past lives, because of ignorance, avidya, we have done karma. So avidya and karma are there from past lives. As we go from one life to another, there is something they call vijnana. Vijnana here is not the vijnana of Vedanta or of Sri Ramakrishna. Here it means a kind of basic consciousness which pushes us from one life to the next. Body dies, a collection of mental skandhas, they move from one life to another. More like a transmission of a wave, not like a transmission of a particular entity. Now, this is vijnana, this is the third link. Now it leads to the development of the body in the mother's womb in case of human beings, for example. So that is called the fourth link, which is nama rupa. Avidya, karma, then vijnana, nama rupa. Nama rupa body develops. As body develops, the sense organs become active. That's the fifth link called shadayatana, the 6 sense bases. 6 sense bases. Seeing, hearing, smelling, tasting, touching, and the mental faculties. Thinking, feeling, willing, understanding, all of these things. So, the 6 sense bases, the shadayatana, they become active. As they become active, they come into contact with their respective objects. Eyes see form, ears hear sound, tongue tastes sweet and bitter and sour. So that is called, the 6th link is sparsha, touch, contact. Touch does not mean physical touch only, any sense organ touching, even thinking. So that is contact. And contact leads to experience. In Sanskrit, Vedana. Vedana, the experience, can be, or sensation, it can be pleasant, unpleasant, or neutral. And based on these sensations, some we like, some we do not like. It's very natural. Based on our past experiences and the condition of the body, certain kinds of experiences are pleasant, some are unpleasant. Due to the pleasant and unpleasant nature of these experiences, we inevitably have the next link, which is called the trishna, or thirst develops. It's composed of 2 things, raga, dvesha, likes and dislikes. It's a very simple movement. Because of pleasant and unpleasant experiences, we have likes for the pleasant thing we want to repeat, or we want similar experiences, and dislike for the unpleasant sensations, raga, dvesha. And this raga, dvesha leads to craving. This strengthens into different kinds of craving. That craving is grasping, it is called upadana. I want those things, those sensations, upadana, grasping. As the body ages, the body is unable to satisfy those graspings, those cravings. So then we develop what is called bhava. Bhava is the desire to exist in this kind of a body. The desire to satisfy my passions, my craving with the body. And this is what pushes us at the time of death into the next life, bhava. There is also another word used here, vibhava. That means there is an equal distaste for the old and dying body. So we want to give up. We are so attached to this body, but attachment is not because of the body. Attachment is because I want to satisfy my desires, my cravings through that body. When that body does not satisfy the cravings, it's become a burden. We actually develop a dispassion, the Buddhists say, and we want to get rid of it and move on. So bhava and vibhava. So bhava means pushes us into the next life. I remember.
Before he gets into what he remembers, so it's like a cell phone. Whenever you type in all your data into your old cell phone, all of a sudden a new one comes along, or in your new cell phone, and then when a new one comes along, you're like, well, I want that new one. So you get the new one and you start transferring your old data, all the data that you have in your old cell phone, into the new phone. Kind of like that. That's how I understand it. Which is also made me think about people like at their deathbed, in a sense, that they make deals like, oh, let me live longer, because they're striving, they want to live. And I'm assuming that's what he's talking about, where this desire to live, this desire to continue, is what pushes us to this next body, and that's what continues this rebirthing cycle. Am I right? Wrong?
When I was a kid, I saw this Hollywood movie in which a man had died and become a ghost, and he had a great craving for cigarettes. So in those days, cigarette smoking was much more common. Luckily, that's not so the case nowadays. So he had a great craving for cigarettes. And in the movie they had shown, he has a farm, a ghostly farm, and the cigarettes are there, but he cannot touch, because he's a ghost. He cannot touch anything physical. So he's trying to grasp the cigarette, but his hand is passing through it all the time. I remember, even as a kid, I still remember the scene. It impressed me so much. And at that time, I did not know all this bhava. But I felt at that time instinctively, this is why people are reborn. There is a strong tendency, a desire in them, and this is what propels a great craving to exist again in a body. So that pushes into the next life, that bhava, it pushes, and we are now in the third life. The first life was the past life, then this present life, now we are in the next life. It pushes into the 11th link, which is jati. Jati means birth. A new birth comes. And when birth is there, old age and death will be there. Jara marana, the 12th link. Jara marana, old age and death. So these are the 12 links of samsara, and spread across 3 lives. My earlier life, this life, and what will happen in the next life. And these 12 links are in a cycle. Now remember, the thing to remember here is, this arising, that arises. This not arising, that does not arise. These 12 links, they show us how samsara arises, one leading to the other, as you move from one link to other. But it also shows us how to get out of samsara. If we do not want old age and death, that was the whole project of the Buddha, remember, how to overcome the suffering of old age and death. If we do not want old age and death, then we have to prevent this continuously being reborn, the cycle of rebirth. So jati has to be prevented. But to prevent rebirth, we must prevent that desire to go into the next life, the bhava. To prevent the bhava, we must prevent the cravings, the upadana, which are there. But to prevent upadana, we must prevent the preceding one, which is the thirst.
So basically, you start from link 1 to 12, and that's the continuation of the cycle. To prevent that, you have to start at link 12 and work your way back to 1.
The trishna. But the thirst will be there if we do not prevent the one which precedes them, the pleasant and unpleasant sparsha, contact. But the contact is inevitable unless we, as long as we have the previous link, which is the vedana, the sensations. The vedana is dependent on the previous link, which is sparsha actually. So sparsha is dependent on sense organs. If there are sense organs, we will have contact. The sense organs, the shadayatana. And the sense organs are inevitable if we have a body, the nama rupa, the physical body, which has the five senses and the mind the sixth. And the body will be there. If there is the previous life's vijnana, the basal consciousness which pushes us from life to life. And that is there only because of past karma. And past karma is there because of the first link in the chain, avidya, ignorance. So, if you remove ignorance, the entire chain, the other 11 links, they all fall down, one after another. So the whole point is to overcome this ignorance about reality.
I was going to say, how do you get rid of your sense organs? You can't. You can't get rid of being born because we didn't exactly have a choice. But once ignorance is gone, wow.
And that is done in the third link, which says that if you overcome ignorance, what will happen in the third noble truth, which is noble truth of cessation, dukkha nivritti, cessation of sorrow. The term used is nirvana. The Pali term is nibbana. Nirvana literally means cessation. There are two ways of looking at it. There is a Theravada. There are different schools of Buddhism. The Theravada idea is nirvana is extinguishing. So somebody asked, what happens to the Buddha after the death of the Buddha? Where does the Buddha go? And the Buddha replied that if there is a flame and it's blown out, will you say that the flame has gone to the north? No. South, west, east? No. Up or down? No. And that's it. So after the Buddha's passing away, Buddha does not go anywhere. It's like a flame being extinguished. Nirvana means extinction. But extinction of what? Is it nothingness? That the Theravadins deny. It's not that it becomes zero or nothingness, but they refuse to give any positive description. The idea is the whole project was to overcome suffering. Suffering is extinguished. What more do you need? Then what is the state after that? Nirvana is the final, ultimate. There is no question of what is after nirvana. It is a permanent state. That is a Theravada idea. The Mahayana idea, like the Tibetan Buddhists, they are Mahayanists. The Mahayana idea is that not that it is extinguished. The mind's ignorance is extinguished, cravings are extinguished, and suffering is extinguished, but the enlightened mind continues. In Tibetan Buddhism, for example, there is a description of it is possible that the enlightened mind will continue for thousands of years in a state of meditation. Why I like the description was, it immediately reminded me of Sri Ramakrishna's vision of Swami Vivekananda, the Saptarshi. That he says in a vision he saw a place of luminosity, non-duality. In that non-duality there were 7 rishis. I don't know how in not 2 there will be 7, but there are 7 rishis who are immersed in the truth of non-duality in deep meditation. And a child of light comes. The child of light is Sri Ramakrishna himself. Goes to one of those rishis, arouses him from meditation and says that I'm going to the earth, which is sunk in darkness, in sorrow, and will you not come with me? And that rishi who is born as Narendranath, as Vivekananda. But the point here is, for thousands of years, this is enlightened beings who are immersed in meditation on the reality. This is what, for example, Tibetan Buddhism or even generally Mahayana Buddhism claims. After enlightenment, it's the ignorance which is extinguished. It is the craving which is extinguished. Sorrow is extinguished. Not that the enlightened being is extinguished. Enlightened one is still there.
I was going to say, because at least as far as my understanding is the fact that, again, like you said, that there's this wave that just continues on. From another video, I can't quite remember, it's this, your samskara just continues on. As soon as that body dies, it continues on to the next body, then the next body, then the next body. Since there is no Atman, or there's no self, that this wave just constantly continues on. Nothing stops it. So if you become enlightened, this wave, well, even though you're enlightened, this wave still continues on. And he was saying that they don't give a definitive answer what happens once you're enlightened. I was like, yeah, because again, as far as my understanding is that even if you're enlightened, this wave is something that just cannot stop. It continues on and on and on. So enlightened doesn't even get you out of suffering. Now this other explanation he was talking about seems to be like once you become enlightened, all your suffering is extinguished, and maybe you go in like a meditative state, which then is something is this, which again he explained, but I don't quite understand. I guess there's this other plane of existence or something that the enlightened mind goes to.
Anyhow, this is the difference between the two kinds of ideals. In Theravada Buddhism, the ideal is arhat. Arhat means enlightened being. Through your own efforts, you will get enlightenment, removal of craving, which will lead to removal of sorrow. The 12 linked chain will cease, and you are free. Nirvana, finished. That's the goal of Buddhism, according to Theravada. According to Mahayana or Tibetan Buddhism also, the goal is not just arhat. Arhat is part of the goal, but the goal is to be a bodhisattva. From the very beginning, the goal is not just your own nirvana, your own enlightenment, your own freedom from sorrow, but for everybody. Remember, the original Buddha's goal was how to overcome sorrow for everybody, not just himself. So that is called bodhisattva. And from the beginning, the seeker takes this vow. And as the seeker proceeds in a spiritual path, at one point the seeker, he or she becomes an arhat, enlightened. But that's not the end. The bodhisattva goes on in the journey. Now the whole purpose is to enlighten other beings and to bring them out of sorrow. So the goal in Mahayana is actually not just to become arhat, it's to become a Buddha. So there are many possible Buddhas. And the ultimate goal will be to become the bodhisattva, becomes a Buddha ultimately. Anyhow, because of these two, the whole idea of what happens in nirvana or after that is different in these two broad streams of Buddhism. Just a little note here before we move on to the final truth of the way. They talk about nirvana, cessation, at 3 levels. One is, they call it
I don't mean to be laughing, but it's just like, oh, it's just only four noble truths, with 3 things from this one, which each of those 3 things has 3 things to it. It's like, my gosh, it's this 4 noble truths has become overly complicated, but I get it. It's good that it explains it though, but it's just like it gets to the point where you're expecting 16 different things from 4 things, you know.
Temporary nirvana. Temporary cessation. Temporary cessation is in deep meditation. For a while, it is possible to overcome suffering. There is deep peace, contentment, light. So in various kinds of yogic samadhis, it's actually possible to overcome suffering, but temporarily. Once you come out of it, again come in contact with the world and the mind starts working, sorrow is inevitable. That's why it's called temporary cessation. And why I'm mentioning this is, it is said that the Buddha, before becoming a Buddha, the Prince Siddhartha, when he was seeking, he went to 2 teachers who taught him from his own accounts what seems to be elements of Sankhya and Yoga. So he learned these yogic samadhis, which he incorporated later in different ways into Buddhism, in Buddhist meditation. But he was not satisfied with it because he realized that this is not enough. This will, again, suffering will come back when you come out of this meditation. Then there is a second kind of nirvana, which is called nirvana with residue, with remainder. What is that? After reaching enlightenment, the body and mind are still there because of past karma, and so the effects of karma are still felt. You continue as an enlightened being, as an arhat. So this is very similar to the Jivan Mukta concept in Vedanta, that even after realizing you are Brahman, you still are, at least you appear to others as a body-mind and you interact with others. So this is called nirvana with residue. This is a remainder of karma. And then the next one is again like the Videha Mukti of Vedanta, that is bodiless liberation. It's called nirvana without residue. Once the body of the Buddha falls off, or the body of the Arhat falls off, enters into permanent nirvana. And the Again, what happens after that is different according to Mahayana or Theravada. The Mahayana is the Bodhisattva may be reborn again, but as a free being, not in bondage, but only to help others. In Theravada, there is no such concept.
Yeah, well, again, based on my basic understanding of at least some parts of Buddhism, that makes sense that because this wave, is it samskara, I believe, is something that's never ending, it makes sense that you're reborn again, even if you're enlightened. But the other one was Theravada. Oh, I'm pretty sure I butchered that. The fact that it just ends, again, because of the one understanding that I have of Buddhism, which is this never-ending wave that cannot stop. It just disappears all of a sudden. And again, I still have just basic understanding of Buddhism where there's no self within and without you. Externally and internally, there's no self, which is something I definitely want to understand, especially because what does it mean? Weird question to ask, but what does it mean that there is no self, though? I think I reacted to like 1 or 2 videos of that. I still don't quite understand it, though.
The Arhat is free, finally, after nirvana, after the fall of this particular body. Then how does one accomplish all this? The truth of the eightfold way, the fourth noble truth, marga, dukkha nivritti marga, the way to the cessation of suffering. This is called Ashtanga Marga, the eightfold way. Very quickly, the eightfold way, what are they? There is a samyak drishti, the right view. What is the right view? To put it briefly, the four noble truths. They themselves are the right view. So basically, you see, in spiritual life, a map is necessary. An intellectual framework is necessary. It need not be Buddhism, it could be something else, but some kind of clarity. What are we doing? What are we pursuing is necessary. Swami Vivekananda said, intellect itself cannot inspire you or lead you to enlightenment, but it can obstruct you. If the intellect says that this is meaningless, this is foolish, this is superstition, you cannot proceed. So a right view is necessary. And in Buddhism, it means the Four Noble Truths. It is not enough. The next one is right resolve. Samyak sankalpa. I have understood the truth of suffering and there is a cause of that and I can be free of it. But I must do it. I must make up the resolve that I am going to be free of suffering in this life. Sri Ramakrishna used to say, this mild resolve will not do. There's an untranslatable Bengali phrase he uses, dhime te tala. There is a tabla playing. So one kind of tabla playing is a very slow beat. He says that slow beat will not do. You must be up and doing in this very life. So right resolve is necessary. The third one, so the next few are third, fourth and fifth, are when you take charge of your life. We have decided we are going to be spiritual seekers. Now what do? You take charge of your life, make changes. First, at the level of speech, samyak vak, right speech, which is truth. Hold on to the truth, irrespective of fear or temptation. And also non-violent in speech. That is, do not hurt others. Do not speak harsh words. Even true words, if they are harsh, should not be spoken.
Oof. I do believe in truth, though. And no matter how harsh they are, I do believe in the truth. It's kind of odd that there's two things that I follow, that so far as I watch these things, that I've come to realize that I believe in responsibility and I believe in understanding. Responsibility being empowerment and understanding to be that of easement of suffering. I want to make a video about my way of life and just how I understood things. And those two are so far the top ones besides the golden rule.
And be disciplined in speech. Do not speak too much. Then there is samyak karmanta, right living. So in that there are different concepts. The ethical living, ahimsa, do not hurt, do not kill, do not hurt other living beings, non-violence. Then there is brahmacharya, chastity. For monks it is of course one set of rules, strict, and for householders another set of rules, but for all, brahmacharya. Then there is the non-stealing, asteya, do not take what is not yours. Then there is in fact, the Buddhism prohibits consumption of intoxicants, drinking, drugs. Houston Smith quotes a funny story. One of the old czars of Russia, he was given an option, what should be the religion of his people? So the options were, you could have Christianity, you could have Islam or Buddhism. But Islam and Buddhism prohibit drinking. And the Tsar, being Russian, was fond of his vodka. So he chose Christianity. I don't know how true the story is, but Houston Smith quotes that story. Then there is the fifth step of the Eightfold Way, and that is Samyak Ajiva, rightful livelihood. Not just your day-to-day life should be disciplined, but what we do for a living, that must be a moral thing. One cannot be a crook or a criminal in our life and earn money on that money you live and try to be spiritual, will not work. We see in the Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna how careful he was not to accept gifts from people he considered worldly or dishonest or selfish. So our livelihood should be honest livelihood. And then there are some lists of acceptable jobs, non-acceptable. And I found it is amusing to see that the Buddha, like Jesus, it seems to be against tax collectors. So I think IRS people all throughout history, people don't like them. Anyway, then, so that is Samyak Ajiva, right livelihood. Then the next three are connected to meditation, concentration. Samyak Vyayama, right effort. Buddhism, above all, is a path of self-effort. There is no God to appeal to. At the most, the Buddha can inspire you, but you have to make the effort yourself. The Buddha speaks about the buffalo. If you remember, if you can visualize the buffalo in South Asian countries, muddy, waterlogged rice fields, and the buffalo is walking through the mud, slow, hard work. He says, just like that, through the mud and the filth of desire and ignorance, one must cross it with one pointed view on the Eightfold Way, holding on to that, cross the filth and mud of passion and desire. It is called Samyak Vyayama, right effort. It's a path of willpower. You say it sounds too difficult. Not really. We have plenty of willpower when it comes to what we want. People are up and doing, building business empires, conquering countries, getting PhDs. So much hard work goes into it. Even raising a family, so much hard work over so many years goes into it. So we have the willpower.
You know, there's a lot more people who want these things, a business, an empire, and all that. Many more have failed or quit. Let me say not failed, because that at least shows they have willpower. But maybe some failed. So people who goes out and get PhDs or try to start a business who have failed, they didn't have the willpower to continue on that failure because it's costly. So I think I think the success of that willpower is very small. So I don't think we necessarily have the willpower necessarily. Like there are certain things, yes, we do, but I think I don't know.
I think Swami Ramakrishnanandaji told a young man who had come to become a monk that the amount of effort that you put in to get through one of your university examinations, that much effort if you give, it's enough for God realization. So you can do it. It's hard, but you can do it. Samyak Vyayama, right effort. Then Samyak Smriti, mindfulness. This I need not speak much about. This is so popular today. In America, it's a multi-billion-dollar industry, and it comes from the seventh step of the Eightfold Way. Samyak Smriti, mindfulness. Pramado vai mrityu, inadvertence is death. Being mindful, so the most common method is keeping the mind anchored to the breath. So being aware when you're breathing in, being aware that you're breathing in. When you're breathing out, being aware that you're breathing out. So using that as an anchor, now you become aware of what's going on in the world, the sensations in the body, In each, whatever you are experiencing, you are aware, you're breathing in now and breathing out now. Unhappiness comes in the mind. Breathing in, there is unhappiness in the mind. And notice, just notice. Focus is on breathing in and breathing out. So, our sensations in the body, our thoughts in the mind, ideas, the moment the attention is lost, again, you realize, my attention has drifted away from the breath. Don't get upset. Bring it back to the breathing in, breathing out. Mindfulness. And this is a very important part of Buddhist meditation. And this is further developed into, it deepens into the 8th step, which is samadhi. Samadhi is deep meditation. And the Buddhist path is actually one of meditation. Buddha himself attained enlightenment through meditation. The focused, clear mind, purified and focused mind, can reveal the secrets of the universe and about oneself. So, that leads to bodhi, enlightenment. And that bodhi, after that enlightenment, all craving fades away. When the craving goes away, the sorrows also go away. So notice, eightfold way is the cause, the marga is the cause, and the effect is the third noble truth, nirvana. And the third noble truth, cessation, leads to the removal of the second noble truth, that is the desire. And when the desire is gone, the first noble truth, suffering, that is gone. So you see the causality which works. There are two sets of cause and effect here. First set is sorrow is the effect, and desire is the cause. First noble truth, second noble truth. The second set of cause and effect is nirvana is the effect, and eightfold path is the cause. So eightfold path leading to nirvana, leading to the cessation of sorrow, cessation of desire, to the cessation of sorrow. Very logical approach. Swami Vivekananda said that Buddha was the sanest man who ever lived. No cobwebs in that brain. Swami Vivekananda had a great admiration for Bhagavan Buddha. So on this day, we pray to the Buddha and all bodhisattvas. By their blessing, may we attain to enlightenment in this life itself and cross over the ocean of sorrow. Stay well, everybody. Take care and stay safe. Om Shanti 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 Harihi Om Tat Sat Shri Ram Krishna Arpanamastu.
I wonder if he considers himself enlightened. I think in some sense, I do believe Sadhguru and Osho, I believe they say they are enlightened. The reason why I believe that is because the question that was asked is if they're ever in bliss, which I do believe is enlightened. So remember Osho saying that, yeah, I'm constantly in bliss, so therefore enlightened. And Sadhguru has also said that he's always blissed out. Just look at his eyes. So I wonder, I've not heard Swami say that he is enlightened or in bliss. I don't know if it's ever made, I wonder if he's ever made it say like, yes, I'm enlightened, or whether he is or isn't. Or maybe he'll say like, I'm not sure. I'm wondering. I've yet to see that. I've yet to see him say that. But I'm wondering, has anyone out there heard him say that he is enlightened? Or would he ever admit to that? I don't think he would, probably. I'm not sure. He doesn't seem like the boastful Swami out there. Well, anyways, that's the end of this, the Four Noble Truths. I actually learned quite a bit from Swami Sarvapriyananda because he explains it quite well. Again, I see him as a teacher. I see Sadhguru as like a parent or something, and Osho I see him as an uncle, like the uncle that's so harsh because he's not your child, you're not his child, so he can tell you the ugly truth. While Sadhguru is like your parent, where he's like so nice and kind, but he occasionally teaches you the harsh truth sometimes. Whereas Swami here is like a teacher, where he explains things very well. And it's like Hani, I see him as Well, hopefully he will always keep his eyes, because he's constantly removing his eyeglasses, and I don't know, it's like it's like a strange, not a stranger, like a neighbor that's super excited to talk to you, you know, because he's very exciting. Anyways, that's my reaction for the Four Noble Truths of Swami Sarvapri Ananda. If you like my content, please consider subscribing. Thumbs up, thumbs down, down below. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next vid.